workshop agenda, December 22nd. We do have a quorum. Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes, here.
Cox,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Pritchard,
Here.
Mayor.
Here. Scheduled business tonight is discussion on the annual City of McAlester audited financial statements and independent auditors report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020. Who wants to go first?
We'll ask Mr. Bledsoe to
Mr.
come forward.
Yeah, Mr. Bledsoe.
This is Dan, Mayor, this is Dan Bledsoe, one of the partners of Finley and Cook, who did our audit for this year.
Good evening. Well, I have, on the presentation side, I have a few key things that I was going to touch on, and then obviously we'll open it up to any questions that anybody has that I may not address. And then hopefully you also can hear me through the, through the mask. I'll try to speak up as loud as possible, and if anybody can't hear anything, just let me know, and I'll go back over it. But we performed, it was the financial statement audit for the year ended June 30th, 2020. For this particular year, one thing that was done in addition is that the city had in excess of $750,000 of federal expenditures for the year. So it actually triggered a second piece of an audit called a single audit, where we had to do some compliance testing. That was primarily driven by the coronavirus relief funds, approximately 1.25 million of those. So we did some compliance work on that for this year, which is a little bit different. But we had issued an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements, basically meaning they are presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Did not have any audit adjustments or misstatements noted as part of our audit test work. In relation to the compliance on the federal programs, we did not have any findings there, so nothing to report on that side as far as finding or recommendations. One of the things we're also required to do in planning out our audit test work is to basically get an understanding of your internal control system, basically the checks and balances that are in place over your key financial reporting areas. And doing that, basically to do a couple of things. One, to kind of design our test work, and then obviously perform sample testing on those various areas. In doing that, if we identify anything that we consider what we call either a material weakness or significant deficiency in internal control, we would then be required to report those to you guys in a separate letter. For this year, we did not have any issues like that we were required to report. And once again, I'll emphasize that's based on our sample test work performed. But based on that, everything was following as designed and as set up under your policies and procedures for those areas. So no issues with that. In terms of our sample test work and confirmations, review of reconciliations, all that type of test work, I did not identify any fraud issues for this year, so nothing to report there. And then also no illegal acts or violations of laws or regulations. So basically, with all things considered with COVID and some of the challenges we had for this year, it was a very clean audit. Management was very cooperative as far as getting us the information that we did ask for. We did some of the work remotely, but also we're still able to come on site and review various source documents and things that we had asked for. So no issues with that this year. In terms of presentation of the financial statements, there were no new GASB, Generally Accepted Governmental Accounting Standard Board pronouncements that had to be adopted for this year, so there's not a lot of change from a presentation standpoint. There were a couple that were scheduled to come up, but due to COVID, GASB I guess it was in late April, early May, decided to defer everything for 1 year. So for this year, nothing that had to be adopted. We will look at GASB 84 will be a new standard for 2021 when that audit is performed next year. So beyond that, I think those are kind of the key things. One other that I usually note is the audited financial statements do include the McAlester Regional Hospital. There's actually another firm that does the audit work for that group. So we basically obtain their audited financial statements, and that's the information that gets dropped in there, but they actually do the procedures and work on that part of the audit. So,
Did you sample that audit?
Say again?
So do you sample that audit?
Well, basically what we're required to do is get a copy of the audit. We also get what's called a peer review report, which is CPA firms that do audits have to have another firm periodically come in and review their control system, make sure they're following the auditing standards they're supposed to do and doing the work. So we get that firm. We did not have, there was no issues noted in their report. And then there's basically a representation letter we get from them just to note that they are independent of the city, and so following the independence guidelines, those things. So beyond that, we're not required to actually go in and redo their work or anything like that. We basically emphasize in our report that we're relying on their work as it relates to the hospital. So, other than that, though, the other aspects of the financial statements as far as the governmental funds, Public Works Authority, the retirement plan, we perform the audit work on that. So with that, I think those were kind of the key things I was going to touch on. I'll open it up and see anybody has any specific questions on or anything I didn't cover.
No, the chairman of our Audit and Finance Committee couldn't make it tonight. He wasn't feeling well, but we do have someone here that's going to ask a couple of questions for him.
Kind of short here. Can you hear me? Okay. If you'll look on, this is Carl Golick had a couple questions. He wasn't feeling well. We felt it was probably safer for him to not come tonight. On page 13 of the audited financials, the 140-page report. There is a section that's under financial highlights, the second dark bullet. Towards the end of the paragraph, it says there are still several areas of concern and conditions that are worth noting in terms of the city's financial condition. And then it lists 2 bullet points below that explain those areas of concern. So I'll let you explain those.
Well, I think probably the key thing he's looking at, and it's also reflects in the financial statements, is the general fund does show a deficit in the unrestricted net position, essentially the equity for the government. And what that primarily relates to in 2015, I mentioned earlier, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, they set the principles you guys had to follow. During that year, they had to adopt what was called GASB 68 related to pension accounting, and therefore had to actually pick up not just the city's pension plan. If you had a net position liability, which you do, you had approximately $4 million on that, but also the certain state pensions that your individual employees may participate in this case, firefighter pension. All entities that participate in those state pension groups also had to start picking up an allocated share of their net pension liability. So as of June 30, 2020, you had approximately between the city's retirement plan as well as the allocated piece from firefighters of approximately $10 million of a net pension liability. And so it's correct presentation to pick that up. And when that was adopted, that's kind of what has created that, showing that deficit. Because in essence, you sort of took out what was in net position at that time back in 2015 and moved it up to a liability account. That number will fluctuate year to year because obviously you have actuarial assumptions and calculations that are built into it. And then there's also the fact that, especially more so with the firefighters plan, it's, the gap, you're following gap on how it's presented, but, there is an argument that from a legality standpoint, can the state really force the city to have to pay its allocated piece, which is approximately $7 million of that net pension liability? Really what you're mandated to do is every year pay, your matching piece into that plan that you're required for the employees. And so, once again, I emphasize it's correct presentation. It's shown the way it should be, but it's not necessarily that you're going to have to pay all that within the next year. And so it does look odd, but I have several other governmental clients, either city governments. We audit a lot of colleges and universities that participate in teachers' retirement system. They have the same issue every year. I have to kind of walk through that. Yes, it looks unusual, but that is the correct presentation. So that's kind of the driver behind that particular issue.
Okay, so just as a layman, to make sure I understand it, for instance, our city retirement fund is 80% funded. That 20% would be the liability?
Correct. So obviously the city, from a fire standpoint, outside of what you contribute, you don't really have much control, obviously.
Right, yeah, because it's a state retirement.
For the state. But, so we run into that, as I mentioned earlier, we have entities that are in firefighters, police, which actually police is pretty well funded. But teachers' retirements, still got a fairly large net pension liability. So, colleges and universities that are in that, they're usually picking up a pretty large liability off of that. Certain entities we audit have over the state's largest pension plan. same situation there, so.
And that answers the next question as I'm looking at this a little bit. I don't know that Carl looked at those undarkened bullet points. So his next question is on page 16. At the very bottom, the second to the last sentence, it says, for the current year, this unrestricted net position amounted to a $2,976,000 deficit. And it's restating what he just went over. It's that deficit for the unrestricted net position.
Exactly, so look at the table that's above that's where you see that 468 negative. That's kind of the deficit.
Yeah, just explaining those statements above. Yep, so I think I can explain that to Carl. I'll send him an email.
Okay, great. So anyone else from Audit and Finance have any questions? Anyone from the council? Well, even open it up. Anybody from the audience? Okay. All right, if there's no more questions or comments, I would take a motion to adjourn the special meeting. Motion, Councilman Smith. Second, Councilman Boatright. Any discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, the motion carries. We're adjourned for a few minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. 18 minutes. Do we have anybody here for the invocation, do you know? Do we have anybody here for invocation, do you know?
We do, I've got his name.
Okay, great. I think it's the man right there. Right hat, at least.
Councilman.
You get through?
Now, in that, right in here, we refinanced a couple of interest payments. We kept them. When we refinanced them, we kept the rates along with everything.
City Council, December 22nd, 2020. We do have a quorum. We have Reverend Jim Hale here from, I believe it's Abba's house, isn't it? To lead us in the invocation and pledge.
Says Jesus, you were born in a small town. You grew up under the authority of local leaders and officials who manage the majority of your daily life. We lift up our local leaders today. We pray for our mayor, our city council members, our county commissioner, police chief, judges, and all those who serve our local community. Strengthen them with wisdom and grace for the heavy burdens they carry. May they manage their teams and projects with love. Keep their hearts pure and their eyes turned toward your face as they work in the best interest of the people they are called to serve. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Cora, would you call the roll, please? Thank you, Mr. Hale.
Councilman Smith,
Here.
Stevens,
Here.
Cox,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Boatright. Here. Pritchard,
Here.
Mayor.
Here. We are on citizens' comments on non-agenda items. Residents may address the council regarding an item that not listed on the agenda. Residents must provide their name and address. Council requests that comments be limited to 5 minutes. We didn't have anyone sign up. Is there anyone present? I'll say it again just in case I didn't get the. We didn't have anyone sign up. Is anyone here that would like to address us on a non-agenda item? Seeing no one, we will move to the consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council, will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda, will be considered separately. The agenda tonight consists of A, approval of minutes from the December 8th, 2020 regular meeting of the McAlester City Council. B, approval of claims for December 2nd, 2020 through December 15, 2020. Take a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Motion, Councilman Smith, second, Councilman Boatright. Any discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Boatright. Yes. Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We will now move to scheduled business. Agenda item number 1, consider an act upon accepting the annual City of McAlester audited financial statements and independent auditors report for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020. Mr. Bledsoe.
Well, good evening. This was the audit for the year ended June 30, 2020 for the city. This includes a financial statement audit, of course, which the governmental funds, your public works authority, as well as your retirement pension plan and the regional health authority, which is a component unit audited by another firm that is incorporated into the financial statements. Basic audit process, your finance department utilizes a third-party firm called Crawford and Associates to provide financial information to. They basically draft the financial statements and various work papers. We then come in, review that work, as well as perform independent test work on a sample documentation, confirmations, things of that nature. So for the year ended June 30, 2020, we issued an unmodified or clean opinion on the financial statements, basically meaning they are presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. For 2020, one thing that was a little different than prior year was that we did have federal funds that met the threshold that triggered a single audit. So we did perform compliance testing on the coronavirus relief funds that the city expended during FY 2020, approximately $1.25 million. Did not have any findings in relation to that federal program, so rendered a clean opinion as well on the compliance as it related to the federal programs. In doing our test work and getting an understanding of your internal control system, we did not identify any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in internal control. Basically means the internal controls look like they're designed correctly, and based on our sample test work, the city was following the standard policies they've set up for those. So no issues there. Did not identify any fraud issues as part of our test work or violations of laws or regulations. So nothing to report on that side. Overall, the process went really well. In working with management, they were cooperative as far as providing us the information for our test work, responding to our audit inquiries and so forth. And as well as did not have any disagreements in terms of presentation of the financial statements. We were in agreement with how they were presented as far as the financials and footnotes and any supplementary information. So overall, just a cleanup process, and for this year, no findings or recommendations. So with that, I'm going to open it up and see if anybody has any specific questions.
I just want to make sure that everyone understands the process. The city provides the information to Crawford and Associates.
Correct.
And Crawford and Associates is a well-known and well-respected
Correct, yes.
entity, isn't it? And then Crawford and Associates compile them for you guys to do the audit on.
That's correct, yes.
So pretty well, we have 3 sets of eyes looking at the things that we do.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you mentioned the CARES Act money, and you said you looked at that, and everything within that was done correctly as far as you looked at it.
Correct.
Okay.
And yes, those dollars passed through the state of Oklahoma to you guys, so.
Yeah, not to assume you're an expert on the CARES Act, but the CARES Act money is money that we spend and then we apply to be reimbursed, correct? So-
yes.
So the only way to get that reimbursement would be if we were spending it correctly by the state.
Correct, yeah, you have to provide the backup for those expenditures to the state, OMES, the Department, Finance Department, in essence, for the state would review that before.
Yeah, we
funded
have
that
to
money.
justify why we spent it.
Exactly, so it wasn't funds just advanced to you to expend, it was basically a reimbursement-based grant, so.
And then, I'm pretty sure I heard you made the statement, but I just want to reiterate it, that you found no fraud or violation
Correct,
anywhere in that. So we
Correct.
had a good clean audit, one
Yes.
that our employees could be very proud of or the job they do.
correct, and yes, we definitely appreciate everyone's help. We obviously asked for a lot of information to do the audit work, so they were cooperative, especially with all the challenges that COVID presented for this year. We're still able to get the information we needed and get everything done on time, so.
Anyone else have any questions or comments?
Mayor, I have a comment if I can make it, please.
Yes, go ahead.
There's 2 sheets in here, and these are probably the 2 sheets that I get the most questions asked about the city, and not only from councilmen, but also the public. If you turn to page 122 in the audit. I'll let everybody get caught up. This question relates to our bonds and our bond indebtedness. And everybody will always ask me, well, how much do we owe on our bonds? So you can see at the end of this audit, June 30th, we're down to $43,876,000. We only go back to 2014. We can always rebuild this further out if we wanted to, but that's one of the questions that we get. These bonds are not paid off until 2032, 2033. So,
Yeah, and there's one in 2034 as well.
yes, and there's some balloon payments, and we currently put that money in trust with Bank First so that we're not hit with a $8 million balloon payment when these come due. So we're being fiscally responsible on that. The other question that I hear, and I get a lot of questions on, is page 127. There's comments out there from the public mainly that we've added about over 70 positions here at the city over the last 10 or 12 years. And so this gives you our employment levels. This goes back to 2011. You can see that we had 223 employees in 2011. This last audit, we have 225. I was able to go back to 3 other audits, and in 2008, we were at 249 employees, 2009, 246, 2010, 246. So as you can see, we have decreased the employment levels at the city, not increased them. That's the only two comments. Those are a lot of questions I get, Mayor.
The only bad part about that is that we're down to 43 million.
Exactly.
So any other questions or comments? All right, I take a motion in a second to accept the audit. Motion, Councilman Smith, second, Councilman Boatright. Any further discussion? Corey, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith,
Yes.
Boatright,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Bledsoe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're on to agenda item number 2, consider and act upon authorizing the mayor to sign the work order for professional engineering services agreement with the city of McAlester, owner, and Mishak and Associates LLC consultant for engineering services for the South 14th Street and South George and I Expressway drainage improvements. Mr. Skimbo.
Hello, Mayor, council members. This project is for 14th and 69. With the flash floods we had recently, well, this year, the drainage structure that crosses 14th that goes into the golf course retention pond, it's undersized, and it really became obvious with the rainfall that we've had. With the water backing up, it has compromised the sides of the roads on 14th Street. The edges of them are collapsing. The head walls there, they're not functioning. The water went around them. It backed up to the Walnut Grove main entrance and created some eddies with the water that washed away both sides of the Walnut Grove entrance. The south side is actually compromised and undermined quite a bit. It's been roped off for several months. This project, it's a good timing with the project, with the shopping center going in and ODOT looking to redo that intersection there. We can coordinate our efforts to take care of that whole area from the new stoplight going in to the drainage structure. The other part that we're looking at is coming from there to the north, going to the top of the hill. That section of road, there's no curbs, there's no gutters, there's no drainage, and it's a straight drop off on the ditch. It's also several feet narrower than the rest of 14th Street. With this study in engineering, we're going to look at the options to control that waterfall, potentially widen the road out for the whole width. And with the development going on in the area, this will be safer for the traffic. One point to point out is the water coming out or coming down 14th Street, it turns there into the links, into those townhomes. There's 3 garages that have seen routine flooding, plus 1 entryway to the townhome. There's been a couple of insurance claims on these. And this will also come up with some design elements to take care of those.
This will be done with stormwater money, I'm assuming?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Any questions or comments? Take a motion and a second to approve. Motion, Councilman Boatright, second Vice Mayor Brown. Any discussion? Corge, call the roll, please.
Councilman Boatright,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Pritchard,
No.
Smith,
Yes.
Stevens,
No.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 3, consider and act upon authorizing the mayor to sign the work order for professional engineering services agreement with the city of McAlester and Mishak and Associates LLC for engineering services for North Main Street and East Electric Avenue drainage improvements. Mr. Skimbo.
Mayor Council, this project, when I began work at the city, was on our project board. It was being looked at then by my predecessor. Since then, we've had several issues with the side of the roadway. The water, it's a swell, and the water comes down the surface, and the entry to those businesses, the cars have to drive through. With the groundwater coming off the top from Brown's Mini Storage, going down there, the asphalt that it goes through now, it doesn't hold up. The water lines that are underneath that road also have had several breaks. So we've seen routine maintenance since I've been here. This project will address the surface water and doing a hardscape, either doing storm drains or looking at a bigger swell with possibly concrete to carry the water all the way down to Handy Stop. Right now, the water at Handy Stop goes across the Handy Stop parking lot and then crosses Electric Street. It doesn't go underground. It's a hydroplaning hazard. We've had some vehicles hydroplane there already. The barrier that goes into the canal, the inlets are undersized, and it's just not a good thing. Initially, we were looking at the stormwater doing underground piping across the front of the parking lot, but with the stoplights and the power poles, we can't do that. So with this study, we're going to look at the possibilities of turning the water going around the handy stop. There's some existing piping that goes underneath electric, and if it can take care of the flow, we'll be able to get all the water underneath the road, take care of the hydroplaning issues, and take care of the entrances to all those businesses.
Is that, did I understand you right? You're gonna have above ground coming down to Handy Stop and go around and go underground, back around to First Street and then tie into the canal?
If it can handle the flow rates. If not, we might have to go underground with storm drains.
Well, when we hit First Street, we'd be going underground, wouldn't we?
Yes, sir.
Anyway? Yeah. Anybody, any other questions or comments?
I
Take
have a
a,
question, Mayor.
oh, okay, go ahead.
So in the fee schedule here on page, what is it, page, it doesn't have a number. It's 59 of the electronic file. But it says the total is, sorry, I'm scrolling, 68 or 62,815. But I think the agenda item calls for us to authorize less than that. Why is the difference there?
At the top of the agenda item, it should have the total budgeted funds at 62,815 to incorporate everything. At this point, we're looking at the study and potentially going into the project. If the council doesn't approve this project to go forth, then we won't need the other items. But at this time, I'd like to budget them all in.
Okay, so I see the budget amount you said at the top there, but the recommendation on the agenda item only calls for the lump sum of 35,000 for the engineering fees and then the boundary survey of 12,000. So is that all you want us to do tonight?
Tonight, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Take a motion second to approve. Motion, Councilman Smith, second Vice Mayor Brown. Any discussion? Corge, call the roll, please.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Boatright?
Yes.
Pritchard?
Yes.
Stevens?
No.
Cox?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, and the motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Schooner.
Thank you.
We're on to agenda item number 4, consider an act upon authorizing the mayor to sign change order number 1 from Bates Instrumentation LLC for a decrease in the amount of $4,716.51 and an additional 30 days. This adjusts several items in the current contract for Wade Watts sidewalk project. Mr. Burke.
Thank you, council. Thank you, Mayor. This is a change order for the Wade Watts sidewalk. Once we got in there and started doing construction, we took out about 125 feet of sidewalk down there on the corner. Talked to George Markangeles, and we thought that was good enough to leave. We had a retaining wall in there originally. We found out a way to take it out of the contract. So all in all, the contract, the change order is for a negative amount. $4,716.51.
I like it when they do it cheaper than we thought.
I'm sorry?
Said I like it when they do it cheaper than we anticipated.
Yes.
Any questions or comments? Take a motion and a second to approve. Motion, Councilman Smith, second Vice Mayor Brown. Any discussion? Corge, call the roll, please.
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Boatright?
Yes.
Pritchard?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 5. Consider an act upon accepting the bid amount of $111,227.89 from Bates Instrumentation LLC and authorize the mayor to sign the notice of award and agreement for the Kiamishi Drive Water Main Replacement Phase 1 project. Mr. Burke.
Council, we put this project out for bids. It bid December the 10th. We had 7 contractors that checked out plans. We had 4 that elected to bid on the project. The low bidder on the project was Bates Instrumentation for $111,227.89. The engineer's assessment was higher than that, so I checked with Bates, and I'm confident that they can do it for this project. It's going to replace about 1,040 feet of 16-inch ductile iron line that goes around the VOTEC that's constantly leaking. It's leaking right now, in fact.
Is that line, does it tie into, there's a pump station down there, isn't there? That's a wastewater line.
That's wastewater,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Any questions? Councilman Cox?
Was this one of the projects that was identified in your initial assessment of the
It was.
water lines?
It was.
And
Mayor,
yet-
can I make a comment on this?
Yes, go ahead.
We actually broke this project into two pieces. That ductile iron pipe there on the corner has been broken for probably 10 years. And we estimated this project to be almost twice as what the bids came in. There's a lot of really hungry contractors out there. So this will take care of about 1,000 feet, and we are putting out the other 1,000 feet for bid right away. So this will, with this kind of pricing, it's going to allow us to get the entire project completed.
Anyone else? And take a motion in a second to approve. Motion, Councilman Smith. Second, Councilman Boatright. Any discussion? Corr, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Boatright?
Yes.
Pritchard?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, and the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're on to agenda item number 6, discussion on monthly financial update. Who's going to handle that? Mr. Stasiak.
No, are you good? No, I got it. Okay.
The only thing I know is I'm not doing it.
Mayor and council, tonight we're presenting the November 2020 financial statements to you. This represents 5 months of the year that has gone by, or 41.67% of the year. If you look at the general fund at a glance, our revenues are at 49.51%, or 7.84% over budget. This is reflective of the CARES money that the city got earlier this year. The expenditures are actually a little more than 0.5% under budget. You want to be over budget on revenue and under budget on expenditures. It's very close, but we are under budget on our expenditures. If you look at the MPWA fund at a glance, we are 7.06% over budget on our revenues and 5.73% under budget on our expenditures. We'll be looking at this at our mid-year budget. A lot of this has to do with the rural water district rates that were increased earlier this year and were not reflective in the budget early on. The second page is our general fund sales tax revenue at a glance. As you can see, we've had a good year. Our December receipts were actually down a little bit. This is more reflective on our restaurants and some of the retail, but it's that area right before Good Friday, right before Christmas. Kids are back in school. Things kind of settle down during this time of the year. We do not have the actual detail report on this, but it'll be coming forth soon. On page 3 is the general fund use tax revenue. We talk about this constantly. Use tax continues to grow. Interesting side note, USPS came to my house Sunday night, and it was about 6:30 at night, and the girl opened up the back of the van, and our box was the last one in the van on a Sunday night at 6:30. I said, "I'll bet you're glad to be done for the evening." She said, "No, we just got 12 pallets in from Amazon." So it's unbelievable what's happening when it comes to use tax and online shopping. People have really embraced it and utilized it. I think we're going to have a huge month in January. So it has not slowed down at all. If you go to the next page, this is our water sales, residence and commercial. This is probably reflective a little bit of some of the meters that we've been able to change out because our revenues are a little bit higher than last year. We're about, man, those are small numbers. About 30,000. Wow. Can anybody else, are these small numbers or am I getting old? Okay. About $30,000 higher than last year. If you look at our water districts and wholesale, as you can see, those numbers have grown tremendously, and that's due to the increase in water rates for the rural water districts and our wholesale customers. The last page is our treasurer's report. This report is required to make sure that we are properly pledged in our finances. This report for every year, every month that I've been here shows that we are over pledged for the month, and that's what we want to be, month after month after month. And I'll answer any questions if anybody has any questions.
Councilman Pritchard?
The very beginning, you said, when you were talking about revenues, the general fund,
Yes, sir.
that the amount we are over budget is because of the CARES money? Did you say that?
I did, yeah.
Okay. If we took that money out, do you know where we would be to budget?
You'd be removing about $1.3 million, so the actual would be 5.3. If you look at our amended budget of 14 million at 41% is about 5.2 at 41% of 14 million. I don't know. I'm trying to do math in my head. Sometimes that doesn't work. So if you take 14 million times 41.67.
Because we increased the budget based on the CARES.
We did.
With the original budget, we'd be at about 45.31%.
Okay,
We're
thank you.
still over budget. Every month, our sales tax revenue is over budget.
Has been over budget also.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? I just have one comment on the December number being low, and that's for the sales in November, and that's also when the big surge started with the virus again, and people started staying home more and being safer, so we should see that adjusted in the future. Okay, we're on to agenda item number 7, consider and act upon changing the location of the City of McAlester City Council regularly scheduled meetings for January 12th, 2021, January 26th, 2021, February 9th, 2021, and February 23rd, 2021, from council chambers in City Hall, 28 East Washington Avenue, McAlester, Oklahoma, 74501, to the Conference Center, Room 215, in the Clark Bass Building in Eastern Oklahoma State College, 1802 East College Avenue, McAlester, Oklahoma. Clearly, this is so that we can maintain the social distancing, and that's not just among us, but among the audience as well. So, anyone have any questions or comments? Councilman Pritchard?
Do we pay rent here?
I don't believe we do.
We do not.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, I would make a motion that we do so. Is there a second? Second, Councilman Pritchard. Any discussion? Cordia, call the roll, please.
Councilman Pritchard,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Boatright.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 8, consider and act upon to approve funding agreement in form only between the Oklahoma Development Finance Authority, Pittsburgh County, and the McAlester National Defense and Industrial Development Authority. Mr. Ridenhour.
Evening, Mayor and Council. We are bringing forward a funding opportunity to you through a state program that is designed to support infrastructure projects that support military installations. The city, the county, and MDSA have been working on such a project over the past year, a little bit longer maybe. On the north side of MacApp, there is an improvement project being done right now to improve Haywood Gate. It's designed to enhance their resiliency and redundancy, especially for transportation efforts. Right now, they have a single point of failure for freight traffic whenever you look at a Savannah Gate. Ideally, when this gate is improved, it will give them a second route to move semi-trucks, which is great for our efforts in terms of addressing their weaknesses and trying to improve their strengths. We want MacApp to remain on the top of the DOD's list of facilities that operate well. Unfortunately, the road leading up to Haywood Gate, Haywood Road, it's currently in good working condition, but it was never built to withstand a continuous use of semi-trucks. Once that gate reopens, or I guess opens to accommodate semi-traffic in September of next year, the road is expected to deteriorate over some period of time quickly. We've been looking for some funding opportunities to help maybe enhance this, improve it. Additionally, improve the interchange with Highway 270, which was never built to accommodate left-hand turns onto Haywood Road. Luckily, the state also values their military installations, and they want to work with us on this. This particular program is kind of unique. It actually works by withholding state payroll taxes that are generated on the installation for a period of time until you arrive at whatever your funding is, and then you can use that money for whatever designation you applied for. We have been approved for $800,000 through the state to help improve this road. I gave y'all, it wasn't included in the package, I apologize, but I handed out the cost estimates that were given to us by the county and the state. This particular project is expected to cost somewhere about $4 million. There might be some additional fees with engineering when we get down the road. So this is a pretty good start towards funding this project. We're about a fifth of the way there. Ideally, we could start collecting next month. They expect that it would be done in about a year, which would give us time to find some other funding opportunities to close the gap. There are some federal opportunities, DOD opportunities specifically, that we're going to be going after. Having this already in place makes those grants more competitive. I'm happy to answer any questions y'all may have.
We have some economic development money that's earmarked specifically for military as well, don't we?
Correct. Through the Oklahoma Strategic Military Planning Commission, we get money annually from them, and we've been saving that for a big project.
Such as this.
Such as this.
Yeah. And it's around $1 million, isn't it?
It's a little over, but not far off that, yes.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting, and this is very similar to a TIF, isn't it?
For income tax and not property or sales, yes.
Yeah. Anyone else have any questions or comments? One last, this approves us for the $800,000, so whenever it reaches that point, do we get it even if we don't have the rest of the funding for the entire project?
Correct. I was very extensive with my conversations with the state with this. They understand that this may not be completely funded in a year. There's no real obligation by doing this. They'll hold it. At any point, if we decide that we want to back away from the project or amend the project, we can give the money back, or we can hold on to it for some period of time while we try to make this project work.
Great.
One last thing, this item is on the agenda twice. The council first has to approve it in form only, so that way the authority can then actually act on it. It would be the contracting arm to execute this agreement.
Any other questions, comments? Take a motion and a second to approve. Motion, Councilman Smith, second Vice Mayor Brown. Any discussion? Cora, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Boatright?
Yes.
Pritchard?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Cox?
Due to the potential conflict of interest, I recuse myself from the vote.
Mayor?
Yes, and the motion carries. We're on to agenda item number 9. Discussion and possible action on approval of certain costs related to the fire department, funds to be used from the city of McAllister's fire department portion of the county quarter cent excise tax for fire services. Anybody take Mr. Stasiak?
Mayor, members of the council, this is to replace helmets and bunker gear for our firefighters. This money is coming from the county tax monies that have been allocated to the city of McAlester Fire Department. Costs are not to exceed $18,000 for helmets and bunker gear. Staff recommends approval.
Any questions, comments? Take a motion in a second. Motion, Councilman Pritchard, second, Councilman Stevens. Any further discussion? Corge, call the roll, please.
Councilman Pritchard,
Yes.
Stevens. Yes. Smith.
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Boatright.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes, and the motion carries. We're now on to new business. Any matter not known or which could not have been reasonably foreseen prior to the time of posting the agenda in accordance with Section 311.9, Title 25, Oklahoma State statutes. Mr. Stasiak, do we have any new business?
We do not, Mayor.
Let's go to city manager's report then.
Mayor, the only thing I have tonight is I want to go back to our audit for a few minutes if I could. I want to take just a moment to reflect on that audit. This is our 12th year of having our audits with no findings whatsoever. There have been no incidences raised over a 12-year period of time. And this is just a phenomenal staff that puts this information together on a day-to-day basis, month-to-month basis, and a year-to-year basis. I want to thank Tony Irvin, Sherry Swift, our CFO, Kara Coy, our chief accountant, our utility billing department, who deals in hundreds of thousands of dollars of money in cash, our accounts payable and purchasing department, Norman LaDonna, and all of the departments of the city of McAlester that garner all of this information and bring it to these departments, who then compile it and put it into financial statements and do it correct day in and day out. It's a pretty amazing undertaking, and for us to have 12 years of no findings whatsoever and 6 years of CAFR awards is just an amazing feat, and I want to just take this moment to thank each and every one of them. The other thing I have is this is the last meeting of the year, and I want to wish each and every one of you a very Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and I am looking forward to 2021. So,
Be careful what you wish for.
you got it.
All right, we are on to remarks and inquiries by city council. Councilman Smith, Councilman Boatright, Councilman Cox, Councilman Brown, Pritchard. All right, 6 for 6? Yes. All right, well, well, I'm gonna make us stay just a few minutes longer anyway. I wanted to let people know that we need to continue to keep taking this virus very, very seriously. We, at the city of McAlester, we currently have 21 people out because of the virus. 22, I just got another notice. And that's, if you go back to what the city manager was saying about our total number of employees, that's about 10% of our employees that are out specifically because of the virus, not for any other reasons on top of that. So continue to do your best to be safe, and want to say thank you to all of the city employees for another great year. They said that the audit is just a testament to how good our finance department works. The rest of the employees, I mean, I know I get people contact me all the time whenever there's an issue with a water line or a sewer line or something like that, and those guys are out in the middle of the night when it's cold and wet, and they do an incredible job. And can't speak highly enough about the quality of people that we have working for the city and the job that they do. And I want to wish them and all of you a Merry Christmas, and be safe. And lastly, we got a Christmas card. So to Mayor John Brown and McAlester City Council, have a joyous holiday season. Merry Christmas to each of you and your families from former Councilwoman Harrison. With that, we will recess the council meeting, and I would take a motion to convene as McAlester Airport Authority. Motion to include approval of minutes from the December 8th, 2020 regular meeting of McAlester Airport Authority. Confirm action taken on City Council Agenda Item B1, 7, and adjourn. Motion, Councilman Smith, second, Councilman Boatright. Any discussion? Corr, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith? Yes. Boatright? Yes. Brown?
Yes.
Pritchard?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, and the motion carries. I would now take a motion to convene as McAlester Public Works Authority. Motion to include approval of minutes from the December 8th, 2020 regular meeting of the McAlester Public Works Authority. Confirm action taken on City Council Agenda Item B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7, and adjourn. Motion, Councilman Smith, second Councilman Boatright. Any discussion? Corr, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Boatright?
Yes.
Stevens?
No.
Cox?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Pritchard?
No.
Mayor?
Yeah, yes, and the motion carries. I would now take a motion to convene as McAlester Retirement Trust Authority. Motion to include approval of minutes from the November 24th, 2020 regular meeting of the McAlester Retirement Trust Authority. Approval of retirement benefit payments for the period of December 2020. Confirm action taken on City Council Agenda Item 1, confirm action taken on Council Agenda Item 7, and to adjourn. Motion, Councilman Smith, second Councilman Boatright. Any discussion? Corr, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith? Yes. Boatright?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Pritchard?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, and the motion carries. I would now take a motion to convene as McAlester Industrial Development Authority. Motion to include approval of minutes from the June 12th, 2018 special meeting of McAlester Industrial Development Authority. Consider and act upon to approve funding agreement between the Oklahoma Development Finance Authority, Pittsburgh County, and the McAlester National Defense and Industrial Development Authority, and to adjourn. Motion, Councilman Smith, second Councilman Boatright. Any discussion? Corr, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Boatright?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Cox?
Recuse myself?
Brown?
Yes.
Pritchard?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, and the motion carries. We'll now reconvene as the council, and I would take a motion to adjourn. Motion, Councilman Smith, second Councilman Boatright. Any discussion? Corr, would you call the roll, please?
Councilman Smith?
Yes.
Boatright?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Pritchard?
Yes.
Mayor?
Yes, we're adjourned. Thank you, guys. I'm trying to blast through it.